Oh, we're ready. Right.
Oh.
Okay.
Hello, I'd like to introduce Rob Humphreys, the director of the OU in Wales. Unfortunately, Rob, you can't be with us at the conference. Is there anything you would like, any sort of message you would like to send to the ALs?
Yes, there's two things I'd like to say, Karen. The first is that the university has just developed a new strategic plan, which will take us through the next half decade or so. And I hope the ALs have had a chance to input into that, but I certainly hope they'll all take a look at it, and we'll be developing our own Wales strategic plan to sit within that in the coming months, and we'd welcome the input of ALs. The second thing I'd like to say to our associate lecturer colleagues is simply thank you. Thanks for the excellent work you do with all our students. Thanks for your dedication to the university and to your own disciplines and subjects. Obviously, ALs don't do it on their own. We've got many excellent academic staff, and advisory staff, and other colleagues in the OU in Wales office in Cardiff. But ALs are our first point of contact, and in many ways they're the most important point of contact in enabling our students to succeed. So, diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Brilliant. You touched on the strategic plan, but it's been a period of great change for the OU generally, probably less so in Wales than the rest of the English regions. How do you see these changes actually impacting on the AL role?
I think it's easy to think that because some of the structural changes in the OU, in England in particular, the closure of the regional offices, because those haven't affected the OU in Wales directly, indeed we're actually expanding in terms of staff and activity. It's easy to think that somehow we're not subject to wider pressures for change, but in fact, in Wales, the university is subject to those pressures. We have to respond to it. So changes in technology, for example, major shifts in government policy for higher education, whether that's in Wales or in England, global competition, including from private universities, all those things are at play, and they affect us in Wales just as much as anywhere else. And inevitably they'll affect associate lecturers ultimately, perhaps in the way that we deliver our courses, perhaps in the way that we design our courses. But what it won't change is the intrinsic relationship three-way relationship between associate lecturer, the student, and the subject matter itself. That key point of contact, whether it's in person or electronic or at distance and so on, will remain absolutely critical to the way we enable citizens to learn.
Thank you. You've also touched upon the political situation in Wales. I mean, we've had just a recent election, and it's now very different to that of Westminster, with a majority Labour government and UKIP members of the Senedd for the first time. Do you see higher education in Wales changing because of this, or?
We are likely to see some major changes. As you say, Labour remains a dominant party in the Assembly in Wales. It doesn't have a majority, and even with a Liberal Democrat member in cabinet with them now, who interestingly is the Minister for Education, so Kirsty Williams, she will be the Minister in charge of higher education. They still don't have a majority. This is quite an interesting state of play. Obviously at the OU in Wales we deal with all political parties, we treat them equally and so on, and we had a lot of engagement before the Assembly election with all six parties in Wales. The big moment for higher education would be the publication of the Diamond Review. This review, which I'm a member, has been running now for almost 2 years, and it's charged with finding a more sustainable funding settlement for higher education. A lot of the focus is on full-time younger students, the fee arrangements and so on, but inevitably there will be some impact on part-time, and my role in part has been to ensure that part-time students get a fair crack of the whip. But I think we will see change in those recommendations when they come, which will be later this year, how the Minister, who's a Lib Dem in a Labour cabinet, how she deals with that, how the Labour government deals with it as a whole, and then how the opposition parties will respond, because some support from at least one opposition party will be necessary in order to secure change. So there will be I'd be surprised if there wasn't some significant change in terms of the fees and funding regime across the board in the coming months.
Okay, thank you. And what about the Welsh language? We're seeing increased statutory duties in terms of maintaining the Welsh language. Will that affect OU tutoring and teaching?
We're shortly to see the standards that will apply to the university. These are the formal standards with a capital S, which the Welsh Language Commissioner will produce for the higher education sector. We're shortly to receive the OU its letter of compliance. That is likely to lay down expectations which are more demanding than the previous Welsh language scheme required us to be. We don't exactly know what that will look like, but in terms of ALs and teaching students, it actually won't have that much of an effect there, except that we may have more students wanting to submit written work in Welsh. We offer already quite a lot of Welsh language tuition within the social work degree, but our main contribution in terms of teaching through the Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol has been in developing Welsh language materials on Open Learn, open educational resources. The Welsh language standards are more likely to be in the area of general service to students and inquirers, the way we market the university and market our courses and so on. So those are less likely to have an effect on ALs and tuition. What I would say, however, is that the way we generally present as an institution or as representatives of an institution, that's important to us. We need to present ourselves as if, well, yes, of course, Wales is a bilingual country, we're part of that country, and we're at ease with both languages. That's the most effective way to be a good citizen, if you like, within Wales institutionally.
How do you think the OU in Wales is performing in comparison to other higher education institutions in the nation?
Well, it's difficult to compare to other institutions because each institution has a specific role. But in terms of what we do for wider Welsh society and for the government and for the Funding Council, we effectively keep the part-time higher education part of the sector afloat. The other institutions have gone into decline in terms of part-time, and without us, the government and HEFCU would pretty well fail on all its targets around part-time. So that's a major achievement for us. It makes us necessary and pivotal to what the government and the Funding Council want to do. We also do very well in terms of actual performance into the REF, for example, and the NSS, the National Student Satisfaction Survey. That's not to say that other institutions aren't equally important in their own way. So I take the view that Wales really needs a big, high-performing, world-class, orthodox institution like Cardiff University. I would add, however, Karen, that we can't be complacent about our own performance. We do very well. But as associate lecturer colleagues have heard me say before, we have challenges still around retaining our students. So our new strategy, which I talked about earlier on, commits us to growth, which is a great thing to commit the university to growing its student numbers, but some of that growth needs to come from our continuing students, not just getting new ones in all the time and then losing some. The more we retain of our existing students, that is the best and most effective way to grow, both economically and business terms for the university, but it's the most effective way for the students themselves. So retention remains a big challenge for us, in part as a consequence of us doing so well in terms of reaching the widening access demographic of students, but we still need to put a lot of effort into retention, and of course there again, ALs are absolutely pivotal to that.
Thank you. And on a lighter note, Rob, we know that Wales have qualified for their first major international football tournament since 1958, but there's been a lot of other success in sports in Wales. Do you see a parallel between sport in the nation and higher education?
Well, it would be very easy for me, wouldn't it, now, to roll out a list of cliches from some management book about with sporting metaphors and high achievement and success and crowds and applause and so on, and bring that into higher education. I don't actually take that view. I'm a big sports fan. Some people in Wales can take it or leave it. That's fine. I think that sport, for me, at times is something really essential. And when I'll be in Bordeaux next Saturday night for 90 minutes, it'll be absolutely critical for me and my family. But at the end of the day, it's essentially pointless. I mean, it's a very interesting cultural phenomenon, but it is pointless. And that's part of the nature of the beast. What we do in higher education and what we do at the Open University is far from pointless. It's a hugely enriching, I would say noble endeavour. We are contributing to the pushing back the boundaries of human knowledge and understanding as a university. We're helping individual students gain self-confidence, gain knowledge and skills, help them in their jobs and their careers, be more employable and so on, but also contributing in some way to creating a more democratic and informed citizenry and society. Now, that's not pointless. That's a great thing to be doing for a living, and it's a real privilege.
Well, thank you, Rob. That was a very inspirational and crucial note to end our conversation on. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and I hope the conference goes really well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are we done then?
Yes.
Well, great. I didn't do good to bad, did it, Karen? Yeah?
No, that's quite good. Well, yeah, I think you bought more.
Cheers.
Bale for Wales, in!